In unsurprising news, it looks like Xbox has continued to win over developers with their sales strategy and implementation of Xbox Game Pass. Who knew? Oh yeah, I did, because I made a video about this already. But we have another story about a positive interaction and a positive experience with the service. Let's go over it. So, you've probably heard of Avalanche Studios. They're the team working on Contraband. We don't really know what that game is going to be. It seems like it's going to be some sort of heist game. We saw the trailer during the Xbox event this summer, and it was just basically a frozen in time moment that kind of give you an idea of what the experiences will be like, or the stories that you'll tell from them. This is sort of a form of storytelling where you try and give an impression of the game that you're trying to create and the experiences that you're trying to give the player, but you don't actually show gameplay when you do that. So when I saw the Contraband trailer, I was very lukewarm on it. But then I realized that Avalanche Studios was working on this, and Avalanche, as you may know, worked on Just Cause and the Mad Max games. Now that had a lot of people excited, and had they sort of leaned into that aspect, or maybe they did and I just missed it, it gives me a better idea of the types of games Avalanche has made and what I can expect from the studio. So that has me more excited about Contraband. All that said, I do want to know more about the Contraband game. But this video is about Xbox Game Pass and how, yet again, we're hearing from developers who like this service. And this is from an article that I saw over on Tech Radar from Hamish Hector. So he was the inspiration to sort of talk about this one. Thank you, Hamish. So basically, during this piece, Hamish sort of talked about how during a gamesindustry.biz interview, somebody from Avalanche talked about their game, The Hunter Call of the Wild. Now, this is one of those hunting games where, you know, you go, you hunt animals, whatever. There's a huge demand for these types of games. I'm not one of those players, but not every game has to be for everybody. And I think often the gaming community will sort of turn its nose up at games that actually speak to a lot of players who are playing. Like Bejeweled would be a good example that a lot of people sort of scoff or laugh at, but it's probably one of the most profitable games of all time on mobile, right? Or Farmville, right? Farmville like ushered in this whole new era of gamers that previously weren't gaming. So anyway, The Hunter Call of the Wild, it's a 4-year-old game, but today it still has 1 million active players, and that's because, due in large part to Xbox Game Pass being available. What Xbox Game Pass does is it allows people to start playing this game, get an impression of it, see if they like it, and what's happening is DLC is available in the game. So once they played that base experience for free, they're buying the DLC to continue gaming. And the developer said specifically, the business model really works to our advantage. Now, when I talked about the Game Pass video and developers really liking it, I constantly bring up the Descenders. Descenders is this game that I play because it was one of the challenges for the month on Microsoft Rewards. And I was able to play that game, get 10,000 points, and do the challenge or whatever. But I ended up playing the game, and that's kind of what these developers want, because oftentimes you want people in your game playing it, because then that's where you are able to convert them to a longer term user. And that's fine. That's business. I have this sort of a thing where I don't buy any microtransactions. Like I haven't spent any money in Destiny 2. I didn't buy any of the things. Games like Fortnite, it's a little trickier, right? Like the free-to-play games are a little bit more interesting, because in free-to-play games, often the only way that they monetize is through gear. So that's really interesting. And that's how like Fortnite makes a lot of their profit. And then there's games like Destiny that does the season pass model, and they have the cosmetic option. So I play the season pass content in Destiny, and I usually earn anything that I'm going to get from the season when I play. But anyway, the point is Game Pass is getting these players into the service, and then they're making the decision to buy or not to buy. And we hear time and time again that people are buying the game anyway, even though it's available on Game Pass, because they like it so much that they just want to purchase it and own it. And for me, a lot of people have pointed to this as a negative. They're like, oh, if a game doesn't come to Game Pass, a lot of people won't buy it. I don't see it as such. I see it more like when you would, back in the day, I would rent games from GameFly, right? A lot of people pointed about how that service is it's just like Game Pass. It is and it isn't. So with GameFly, you would rent the game basically. I guess it is sort of similar in a lot of ways, but the point is, it's not a negative. Like, who cares if people rent games, or who cares if people subscribe to Game Pass to get access to games? It's having no negative effect on the industry. And if anything, developers are seeing higher profits because of Game Pass and because of these deals with Microsoft. Microsoft basically handles your upfront charges, and then you get money on the back end. It seems pretty sweet to me, and a lot of developers are coming around. They've been talking about it positively for so long. It's always interesting to me when I hear that people give it a negative skew. The point of this long-winded, rambly story, as I'm very well known for at this point, is that yet again we have another developer talking about the pros of Game Pass and what is happening on the opposite end of the spectrum with Sony. So in the tech article, they point out that Sony's still having problems with indie devs. We just did the story about the $25,000 a day or a game thing to be featured on the store. How a lot of indie people are saying you can't find our game. It's hard to update. And to me, I think that state of play and how it was focused on smaller games, I believe that was due in large part to the fact that they probably have stuff coming down the line that they want to show off, like God of War Ragnarok, right? That was originally slated for this year. It's next year. So they could show off God of War Ragnarok and probably have a banger show. But they needed something for this summer. So I have to guess that they're like, well, we have this problem right now where people feel like we're not supporting indies. Let's show a bunch of smaller games and show that off. And we'll end with the cross-platform game, Deathloop. Well, timed exclusive Deathloop, I should say. There was a lot of stories like Deathloop's coming to Xbox in a year. Yeah, we already knew that. I don't find that interesting because everybody knows Deathloop is a timed exclusive. Maybe like people outside of the general gaming audience don't, but I think anybody watching this video probably knows, hey, yes, Deathloop is coming to Xbox eventually. All the exclusives are going to come to Xbox eventually because they bought the studios. So yeah, that's just going to happen. So anyway, the state of play was all about smaller games, and I think that was done again somewhat to curtail the conversation to support indie devs. However, it doesn't change the Twitter conversation that was just happening a week ago about the storefront. It doesn't address that problem. It doesn't address the closure of the studio in Japan. It doesn't address the problems that have been going on with Sony for so long. It's a I have a baby, so it's the dangling set of keys to distract you from the fact that, dad's changing your diaper or whatever you got to do. Like, don't roll over, look at the keys. I don't know. Maybe that's a weird analogy, but anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? They're doing this really nice thing for the developers that were in the state of play, but what about all the ones who weren't? What about the ones that just started this Twitter thread? What about the people that were mad when they closed the studio last year? They have a little bit of a PR problem. They're aware of it, and they're trying to nip that in the bud. And that's why they're putting Herman Hulst in front of the camera more, which is incredibly smart, because I think Herman comes off much better than anybody else, even though, yeah, I am going to give him a hard time. I'm going to give anybody a hard time if they say something but do something else in the background, because it's strange, right? And then within this article over at Tech Radar, was it Tech Radar? Yeah, so Tech Radar, a lot of developers talked about how the back end is tricky to use. For example, to cert, you use like one portal, and then there's another portal process. Then you go back to the original portal, and they have like playbooks designed within their studio just to like put out patches and stuff like that. So it's just really, really interesting. And the point of this story is we have another developer speaking positively about Xbox Game Pass and working with Xbox. And we have more developers talking about how, again, it is difficult to work with Sony. Well, Sony is saying everything's fine. Look at all these studios that we have coming. And they have a AAA rhetoric going. And Jim Ryan has created a problem with his statement of, AAA games, $70, all this stuff. He's created this problem where Sony's going to have to figure out how to come to terms with that. Because if Jim Ryan's saying it, Jim Ryan's like the top guy. What does everybody else who doesn't agree with that or wants to make improvements at Sony say? So anyway, it's just interesting to see both sides of the coin. Hey, that's the whole video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to get out of here. If you like these sort of videos, let me know what you think in the comments below. I like chatting with you in the comments. By the way, on the previous video where I talked about channel updates, I responded to like 30 comments, and I don't know what happened, but all my comments were eaten. So sorry if I didn't respond to you on that last video. But if you like these sort of videos, hit subscribe. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really, really appreciate where we're going with the channel. Channel's been constantly growing. We are on pace to hit 70,000 soon. 100,000 by the end of the year is a goal. And then if you want to become a member, memberships are turned on in YouTube's back end. Thank you so much to everybody who has decided to become a member. I'm going to get some rest. You can probably hear my throat's a little hoarse. It's because I procrastinate. I was playing Metroid Zero Mission, and I want to play through like all these old Metroid games before Dread and Mass Effect and Plague Tale. I have this huge back catalog, and I just discovered Kim's Convenience on Netflix. So I've been laughing at that too. I love Canadian television shows because I was born in Canada. Watch Corner Gas. If you never watched Corner Gas, there's some great jokes. But now I'm way off on a tangent. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to get out of here. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye, everybody.